Hello, my ladies. Hello. Come on in and say hello. Whether you are live or catching the replay, let me know if you were here watching. I love to know who is receiving the magic and the wisdom that I share. So today's topic is one of my favorites and something that I hold very dear to me, and that's all about honoring your majestic no. So your majestic no is all about owning who you are as an individual, getting clear about who you are as a woman and as an individual, and being able to own and express that in all areas of your life. So let me know if you can relate to those moments of conflict where maybe you feel tension and maybe where you have to make a decision and you start to feel like that tension and that anxiousness in your gut and in your stomach because you might be afraid to let somebody down by you telling them no. Or maybe those moments where you do say yes to something that you didn't want to really do, and the guilt and the resentment that you start to feel towards yourself when you do things like that. So my opinions based on my experiences and my studies on humans is that we all have this inherently have this embedded fear around abandonment. So instinctually, we do know that life is about interdependence. So we do need other people for our survival. We do depend on other people for that connection. So the thought of losing somebody, the thought of being rejected, the thought of them not liking you or you letting other people down, that can actually cause a lot of tension in you. And that's actually a very normal human response to have. And then on top of that, we do have a lot of childhood conditioning. So maybe when you were a little girl, maybe it didn't feel safe to express your true self. Or maybe your self-expression got stifled by the people around you. Or maybe you were gaslighted by the people around you and they were constantly making you feel guilty when you did express something that was true for you or when you didn't act the way they wanted you to act. So you can see how all of that can kind of condition you to feel guilt when it comes to honoring yourself. And that's usually what's at the core of many people who feel like they're not allowed to speak up for themselves. So it can lead to sort of an addiction where you always feel compelled to lose yourself and other people in order to keep their love and to keep their approval. Where you feel obligated to always give yourself up in order to stay safe and in order to keep other people around you. But you do have to self-reflect a little bit and ask yourself, do you really only want people liking you because you are convenient or because they know they can walk all over you or because you're easygoing, a little too easygoing? Do you really think that dismissing your needs and dismissing your boundaries or your real opinions or your real desires, do you really think that's loving behavior towards yourself? And it's not. You probably don't want to be seen that way. You don't want to treat yourself like that anymore. Because not only do you lose respect for yourself when you tolerate things like that, you do lose respect from other people as well when they can pick up on the fact that you're someone who gives yourself up too easily. Having that kind of behavior actually doesn't make people like you more. They may like the convenience of you, but it actually does lower your value in their eyes along with it. So the first step to address this pattern is to kind of see what's at the core and at the root of it. So like I mentioned before, our childhood conditioning tends to be the cause of this. So you would have to do some healing and some reverse engineering to really observe your programming and shed light on whatever programming you might have picked up from your childhood. So as kids, we're like sponges. Our brains are like sponges when we're little kids. So we often pick up a lot of imprints and, the programming and the stories and the limiting beliefs about who we are, about how we have to operate in the world. And all of that really does get embedded within your subconscious mind. So they might be imprints and beliefs such as, I'm not allowed to exist outside of other people. There might be a deep feeling of shame that's there where you feel like something's really wrong with who you are. That's causing this, this pattern of self-abandonment for you. You might deeply believe and feel like your voice doesn't matter, so that's why you don't really speak up for yourself. Or maybe you feel like you have to let yourself be abused and used by other people in order to be useful and to be of value for other people. So you can see like all of these imprints are running on autopilot within our subconscious mind, and that's what's contributing to this cycle and these patterns of self-neglect and self-abandonment and codependency. So reflecting on your childhood is a good first step. However, just thinking about your childhood isn't enough to actually heal what's there. You really do need the correct deep healing method that allows you to actually transmute those beliefs from your core and actually rewire the belief systems and the stories that are there so you can start living and operating from an elevated place. So it is a mix of addressing the imprints along with rewiring the story and rewiring your behavior. And all of that allows you to elevate into the more powerful side of yourself, the part of you that has a voice and the part of you that has a strong sense of who you are. And when you do all that, you will get to a point where that desire to lose yourself will melt away, helping you feel more worthy of your time and your space and your energy and your autonomy to be respected. You're going to start respecting and holding your autonomy as sacred rather than before where you would give it up a little bit too easily. So it's definitely not a quick fix. It does take some time and repetition and some practice and, just consistency with it to actually rewire what's there. And I do have a lot of beautiful healing methods within my programs that help women do this. But a quick tool that you can start with, that you can incorporate into these moments where you might be feeling some hesitation to speak up for yourself, that's to ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Ask yourself, what am I afraid of when it comes to expressing myself in this moment? And you can trust whatever comes up for you. Your soul will tell you what's going on if you just listen and connect to yourself. But what you might hear is that maybe you are afraid to be abandoned by that person, or you're afraid to look too difficult, or you're afraid to be outcasted by the people that you're around. Or maybe if this is with a man, maybe you're afraid to speak up for yourself because you don't want to make him mad, or you don't want to make him abandon you. You're afraid he's going to leave you if you really stand in your full power. So all of that is valid, and really just hold yourself in that fear with a lot of love, because it is a very real wound that many people do have and carry. And so having that intimacy and that self-reflecting and that observation with yourself, it is a good first step to kind of take notice of what's going on in your emotional world, rather than before where you were jumping for people, jumping through hoops for people automatically. If you do take that time to self-reflect a little bit, it's a good way to give yourself like a pattern interrupt and start unraveling that behavior and that habit that you have. So real strength and courage is when you get to that point where you're okay with walking away from people, like where you're okay with risking losing other people if it means that you get to keep yourself and have your back. When you start to be okay with possibly losing people or even upsetting them, that's when you know that you're starting to elevate into more of your strength and into more of your power and more of that sovereignty within you. And I know that there are difficult people out there where if you do express yourself, it might be met by other people with an outburst or with reactivity. They might start to ignore you to try to teach you a lesson, because you're not acting the way they want you to act. And, there's a lot of colorful people out there that exist, but just know that the right people for you will stay with you, and if somebody runs away just because you expressed yourself or you expressed a limit or a desire that you have, then that just means they're not for you. That just means they're not your person or the people that are supposed to be in your life. You don't have to go chasing other people or watering yourself down for them. Always remember to stay true to yourself, and the right people will come to you and stay when you are in that authenticity within yourself. So something I want to acknowledge is how sometimes a woman can swing a little too far to the other end of this, where they become overly reactive, controlling, or nitpicky, or they might feel compelled to always need to prove themselves. So they're always looking for unnecessary conflict, kind of thinking that's what it means to have boundaries or to be a strong woman. But healthy boundaries are a lot different than reactivity. And there's an art to setting, firm yet non-reactive boundaries. And this is something that I call sovereign relating within my programs and with my deeper mentoring options. And what that is learning how to communicate and articulate yourself, but without the drama, without trying to control other people. So there's a huge difference between stating your limits and stating how you feel versus projectile vomiting your dysfunction onto other people. And I purposely use the analogy of projectile vomit just so you can get a good visual of what that feels like to other people when you kind of dump your drama onto them. And there's a healthy way to express yourself that still leaves room for other people in a respectful way. So that's what we want to aim for. There's the inner woman within you, which is the wise, mature part of you that you can speak from. And when you communicate from her, when you can communicate from there, that actually brings up your self-esteem, and it cultivates more respect between you and other people. Versus when you speak from the wounded girl side of yourself, that actually does bring down your self-esteem, and it does lower the respect between you and other people. And it very rarely ever gets you heard and understood by other people. So it is important to understand and learn the differences between the types of communication that you need to have in your life. So another perspective I'd like for you guys to reflect on is how manipulative being the good girl actually is. So this pattern of, maybe being the martyr, this pattern of giving yourself up for everyone, this pattern of not having a voice or not having standards, this pattern of letting yourself be walked all over by other people, that's actually not the real you. The real you has authenticity, individuality, needs, boundaries, a voice. So if you're dismissing all of that and kind of only attaching to this mask of being the nice girl, can you see how manipulative that actually is? Because what you're doing is baiting people with a false image of who you are. You're telling them what they want to hear. You're only acting a certain way so other people will perceive you to be a certain way so that you can win them over, so that you can get their love and their approval. So if you do self-reflect on your motives a little bit, sometimes you're not as innocent as you think you are, So, if you question your motives, what you'll find is that maybe from a young age, you learned that you have to manipulate your surroundings and manipulate other people in order for them to perceive you a certain way, so you can get their approval and so you can get their love. It is a covert form of control because it does have an agenda to it. It is very passive, So if you do have that pattern, it doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that you're trying to hurt anybody. But as humans, we do adapt to our surroundings in order to get what we want out of life. It is a survival tactic that a lot of people take on. So for example, maybe when you were a little girl and it didn't feel safe to be your real self, or maybe you felt abandoned whenever you did speak up for yourself, that could have conditioned you to abandon your real self, making you feel like you have to act a certain way, or maybe guilt other people or water yourself down in order to get love from other people. So you see, this is a deeply embedded childhood pattern that needs to be addressed from the core and rewired so that you can start feeling safe to honor that majestic no and that majestic voice within yourself without fear. Because you have to show up as yourself if you want to attract healthy people to you, whether that's friends, whether that's clients, whether that's partners, love partners. You will, if you're being deceptive, if you're not actually being yourself, you're going to attract liars in return, because it is a mirror. You have to show up as you if you want to attract other people who show up as themselves as well. So if you own that imperfect yet that the authentic yet imperfect true part of yourself, you will see the type of people that start to come to you and filter into your life begin to shift and elevate and change along with it. And just another random thought that I have that I want to mention. I know some people have this fear of not trusting other people. So the truth is that we project onto other people what we do to ourselves. So let's say you've had this lifelong pattern of not honoring yourself and kind of dismissing yourself. Maybe you listen to other people more than you listen to yourself. Maybe you have this habit of telling other people what they want to hear in order to get their approval and to get their love. Maybe you have these patterns of settling or tolerating bad treatment for whatever reason. All of that is actually you betraying yourself. So what it is, it's that you don't trust yourself to be around other people because you've been abandoning yourself for so long, because you don't really have your back when you're interacting with other people. So it's not that you don't trust other people, it's more that you don't trust yourself around other people because you're not actually being yourself when you're around them. So, you really do have to start making more elevated choices and align your expression and your actions with how you really feel. And the repetition of that is what will make you no longer fear other people, because you know that you have your back. You know that you're being authentic and true to yourself when you're around other people in any interaction. So when you start to do that, that's what's gonna help you trust other people more, because you're beginning to trust yourself. You're building that self-trust within yourself. And trust and a real connection will naturally happen with you and other people when you really do show up in that majestic expression and in that majestic truth of who you are. And I'm not saying the nice part of your personality is bad. What I'm getting at is that it needs to be conscious. There's a difference between being in your genuine self-expression versus like selling yourself out when you're with other people like an object and kind of trading your self-worth in order to get their validation. Those are two different things that are going to produce two different outcomes. So if you would like to take this further, round 2 of the Erotic Luxury Temple will be launching early next year, around February or March, and where I'm going to guide you through so many powerful healing methods that do allow you to extract all of these limiting beliefs and rewire your beliefs around feeling as though your voice doesn't matter, and helping you elevate into more of your power, into more of that majestic truth of who you are. In a way that allows you to start listening to yourself and really building that inner self-trust and that inner worth, that inner feeling of worth from the inside out. Everything in life, from the type of relationships that you attract to the experiences that you find yourself in and your confidence, is all based on the type of trust that you feel for yourself and actually the way that you show up for yourself on a deeper, more emotional soul level. So when we cleanse our energy field, when we resolve all of that traumatic old imprinting that might be there and restore you back into your sovereignty, that's going to be the key to you feeling more powerful and helping you attract better quality experiences and better quality people or partners or friends into your life as well. So I'm going to leave the link to the program details down below in the comments, so you can view all of the details and the date and the pricing on that as well. And if you're watching this on Facebook, it will be down below in the comments. If you're watching this on Instagram, click the link in my bio and you can see the details that way. And I do highly recommend joining the temple, because intellectualizing these concepts isn't enough. What we're going to really be doing is embodying these healing methods, really digging deep into our core, unlearning all of those blockages, unlearning all of that programming that might be there, that might be creating all of this suffering for you, and implanting that new wisdom and that high voltage magic, giving you that ability to self-source. I talk about being a self-source woman all the time on this page, and what that means is learning how to validate yourself, learning how to fill yourself up with that energy and that magic and that worth and that value and that validation and that approval from yourself, so you're not so dependent upon other people for that anymore. Giving you that ability to feel how you really want to feel, but in your fullest power. So you're not so dependent upon other people for that anymore. So you can stay tuned for more juicy information on that. I'll be posting a lot more, doing more videos on that the next couple of months as well. All right, ladies, thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching. As always, I want to hear your feedback, so feel free to leave me your insights or your comments or any questions that you have down below in the comments, and I will catch you guys next time.